The world of the game DarkSwitch holds many stories, just like its development. Hello everyone, my name is Alexi. I'm the art director on the DarkSwitch project, and today I'd like to share with you the story of creating the world and its visual style. When we started working on DarkSwitch, we faced a rather complex but very interesting task: to create a unique, special world that evolves by its own rules and laws. A world that harbours mysticism, threats and secrets. In our game, you will encounter giant trees, unusual creatures, monsters, ghosts and heroes. We also have inhabitants who are accustomed to living in this world, who thrive in it and evolve in their own unique way. Visually, it's a world of contrasts. It's an autumn atmosphere through which we try to convey a sense of decay and the destruction of the world. In contrast to this, we aim to show the rays of the setting sun, the spark of hope, some light, bright windows. All of this takes place in a world shrouded in darkness and fog, and for the player, it's like feeling a ray of hope into a fading world. One of the main parts of our game are the personal stories of our heroes, monsters and creatures. Each one of them tells their part of the story. The game's inhabitants are divided into 3 classes: Masters, Scouts and Workers. Each unit has advantages in performing specific tasks which affect their progression. For example, Masters have a somewhat unusual feature in the form of additional mechanical arms that help them perform routine tasks. Scouts are secretive individuals, and their main activity is reconnaissance, so they wear hoods. Their faces are covered with masks and they have long cloaks and comfortable, loose clothing. Workers, on the other hand, are standard units representing a peasant class. They perform routine, heavy physical labour, and among the game's characters there are NPCs which advance the storyline, but the main ones are the heroes. Councillor Valfidis, for example, the head and de facto leader of our settlement. Or Captain Genoa, a woman who commands an airship, an explorer, an adventurer. And there's also Dr. Niamos, healer and keeper of our settlement's knowledge. In the design of the early characters, I tried to reveal their image through the character, actor, clothing, costumes and items that carried to help tell their story. Each character went through a long creation process, from ideation and development to approval. In the end, we got exactly the characters we wanted. And the mysterious world holds many, many dangers. The world is also revealed through the mysterious and mystical creatures which inhabit it. You won't see classical dragons here, or elves fighting orcs, no dwarves, no fairies. Instead, we introduce creatures in the form of terrifying and bloodthirsty monsters. For example, we have a creature resembling a large spider that mimics the figure of a girl hiding in a fog. To lure in travellers from the forest and deal with them ruthlessly. The design of the creatures went through several stages. We worked with references, discussed the overall idea and made a huge number of sketches, after which they were approved by the team and finalised into a specific solution. We went from simply infected units to units created from fog, which seemed an interesting idea, but it wasn't entirely clear how we would implement this in the game. Then we had the ghosts that embody the horrors and the fears of our settlers, perhaps our own as well. We finally have the creatures which are the hybrids of insects and animals, haunting the forest. After we create the concept art for our characters, monsters, heroes and creatures, these concepts are handed over to our 3D modelers who create those models for further development. We refine every concept, considering how it should look in 3D, including elements, materials and textures. This concept then undergoes a full development process from 2D to 3D visualization. And once the 3D model is created, it is passed to our key artist, who creates portraits and key art pieces which reveal the story. We have much of this key art in the game, and each of them reveals a part of the lore, gameplay, or the events which are happening. You might encounter a scene with characters being attacked by monsters, a scene with resource extracting buildings in operation, or many others. Each scene is fully created in 3D, with the lighting, composition and framing all set up manually. Scenes can be rotated, so you can choose any suitable angle or rearrange the characters within them, adding or removing objects. If you desire, you can also change the lighting or the overall mood of the frame. I pay special attention to the atmosphere and these details, striving to refine the scene so that it looks as beautiful as possible and conveys the game's atmosphere. After finishing the 3D part, I render it, slightly process it in a 2D editor, and add additional details and fine-tune those minor elements. Besides our key art, I also create portraits of our characters based on 3D models and concept art from our artists. The pipeline here is similar. First, the character's image is refined in 3D, then additional details are added. The pose and lighting is set, and after that a render is made, which is later refined into a 2D editor. Every detail in our project was created with special care and love by our artists, and we can't wait to show them to you. To bring the stories of DarkSwitch to life, we strive to animate our art. So the next stage is this process. Creating animation for DarkSwitch is a fascinating process, and I receive incredible key arts meticulously crafted and well thought out from our artists. My task is to bring them to life. The animation creation process begins with dividing the image into multiple layers so that everything needed is separate and can be worked with individually. From these images, a mesh is created, bound to bones, and then weights are added and adjusted. Then the real magic happens. What was once a flat image gains depth and volume and begins to move. All that remains is to refine the timing and add special effects. I pay great attention to the lighting. For example, after working on the reflections from a campfire, the scene becomes much more realistic and vibrant, really giving the feeling of being there. In the end, we get a finished animation. Everything moves and comes to life, creating the atmosphere and the emotions which we want to convey to the player. I hope you found it interesting to take a peek behind the scenes of DarkSwitch's creation. We tried to make it as engaging as possible, showing just a small part of our process and giving you a glimpse behind the curtain so you can better understand how our games and character concepts are created. In this unique, extraordinary world, you'll experience everything you've seen here and much more. We are a small team of developers, and we'd be thrilled if you'd wishlist our game on Steam or any other platform where you may play it. Links for this will be in the description. Thank you all for watching. Until next time in the Development Diaries, goodbye everyone.